Once upon a time, in the great kingdom of Oru, there lived a young prince named Tari. Tari was handsome, strong, and very intelligent, but he was also extremely stubborn. He never listened to anyone, not even his father, King Ezenwa, who ruled the kingdom with his wisdom and kindness. When the elders gave advice, Tari would roll his eyes and walk away. When his tutors tried to teach him, he would argue until they gave up. Everyone in the palace said, "The prince will bring trouble one day if he does not change." But Tari did not care. He believed he was smarter than everyone. One morning, the king called his son into the royal hall. "My son," the king said, "you will one day rule this land, but before that, you must learn how to lead with humility. Tomorrow, I want you to travel to the village of Umba and help the people repair the broken bridge there." Terry frowned. "Father, that is a job for workers, not a prince," he said proudly. But the king only smiled. Sometimes, a leader must learn from the ground before sitting on the throne. Terry refused to go. For 3 days, the king begged, warned, and even commanded, but the prince would not listen. Finally, the king sighed. "Very well. Since you think you know better, go and see the world for yourself. Take your horse, ride wherever you wish, and learn what life is like beyond the palace wall." Terry was happy to be free. He wore his finest robe, took a bag of gold, and rode away. For the first few days, he enjoyed himself. He slept in fine inns, ate roasted meat, and showed off his royal ring to everyone. But soon, as he went deeper into the countryside, the road became rough, his horse grew tired, his gold bag became lighter, and when he tried to buy food from villagers, they did not believe he was a prince. "Ha!" one woman laughed. "A prince wearing dusty clothes and begging for food." Terry's face burned with shame. After walking for hours under hot sun, he reached a small farm. An old man was struggling to carry a heavy basket of yams. "Hey, old man," Terry said, "give me food and water. I am the prince of Oru." The old man smiled kindly. "I will give you food, young man, but only if you help me with these yams." Terry refused. "Do you know who I am? A prince does not carry yams." The old man went back to work. Hungry and weak, Terry finally dropped his pride and helped. Together, they carried the yam to the man's hut. The old man gave him a bowl of yam porridge and some palm wine. It was the best meal Terry had ever eaten. That night, the prince slept on a simple mat for the first time in his life. He watched the old man pray before sleeping and whisper, "Thank you, Lord, for this day." Terry felt something strange in his heart. The man was poor yet peaceful. He himself had everything, yet always felt angry and restless. The next morning, the prince offered to help the man on his farm again. Days turned into weeks. The stubborn prince began to change without even noticing it. He learned how to plant yam, fetch water, and greet elders with respect. The villagers started liking him, not because he was a prince, but because he was kind and hardworking. One day, while fetching water from the river, he saw a group of children crying. The bridge across the stream had broken, and their mother was stuck on the other side. Terry remembered his father's words. Without thinking twice, he gathered the villagers and used logs and ropes to rebuild the bridge. It took 3 days, but when they finished, everyone cheered. The old man smiled at him and said, "Now you understand what true leadership means. A leader serves first before he is served." Unknown to Terry, the king had sent a guard to secretly watch him. When the guard returned and told the king all that had happened, the king wept for joy. A few weeks later, the king himself rode to the village. When Terry saw his father, he knelt down and said, "Father, I am sorry. I was foolish and proud. Now I know. To rule is to serve." The king lifted him up and hugged him tightly. "My son, you have finally become ready to be a king." From that day, Prince Terry became known as Terry the Wise. He ruled Oru with compassion and humility, listening to his people and working with his hands when needed. And the people often said, "A stubborn prince once left as a boy, but returned as a king." When King Ezenwa grew old, he called all the elders, chiefs, and villagers together in the great palace of Oru. The king said, "My time to rest is near. My son Terry has learned humility and wisdom. He shall now wear the crown." The people cheered. Drums beat across the kingdom. Dancers in bright wrappers moved their bodies to the sound of flutes. The coronation lasted for 3 days. At the end of the ceremony, Terry was crowned King Tari of Oru, the youngest ruler the land had ever seen. But soon after the joy and singing, a storm of trouble began to rise. 3 months after Terry became king, messengers rushed into the palace. "Your Majesty," they cried, "the River Kingdom has closed the trade road. They said you refuse to pay respect to their king." Terry frowned. That is not true. I sent gifts and greetings, but the messengers added, their new king is proud and wants war. The council of elders murmured, we must prepare the army. King Terry felt anger burning in his chest. The old stubborn part of him whispered, show them who you are, show your power. He stood from his throne. If they want war, we shall give them war. But as he raised his voice, the old man from the village, the farmer who once helped him, walked into the hall. Your Majesty, said the old man softly, before you use your sword, use your mind. The words stopped telling. He remembered the days of hunger, the yams, the broken bridge, and the lesson of humility. That night, Terry sat alone in his chamber. He thought to himself, a leader served first before he served. A true king saves lives, not destroys them. The next morning, instead of sending soldiers, Terry sent a message and a cart full of food and water to the river kingdom. He wrote, let our two kingdoms share the same water and same bread. Why fight when our people can trade and grow together? The river king was surprised. No one had ever answered his threat with peace. Out of curiosity, he invited King Terry to come and speak face to face. When Terry arrived at the river kingdom, he did not come with his army or gold. He came with farmers, builders, and traders. He showed the river king how both lands could grow crops together, share markets, and become richer through peace instead of war. The river king listened. Slowly, his pride melted away. In the end, he smiled and said, you are wise, young king. Let there be peace between us. They shook hands. The two kingdoms became alliance. Years passed, and under King Terry's rule, Oru became the most prosperous land in the region. Crops grew tall, trade flourished, and no one went hungry. The people said, our king does not rule with his crown, but with his heart. But life still had one more test for him. One night, a messenger ran into the palace shouting, your Majesty, the great flood had destroyed the bridge to Mba. Many people are trapped. At once, Terry rose from his throne, threw off his royal robe, and said, prepare the horses, I will go myself. The guards begged him to stay safe, but he refused. A king who hides why his people suffer is not king at all. Through the rain and darkness, Terry led the rescue team himself. They carried children across the raging waters. His robe was soaked, his crown fell into the mud, but he did not care. By dawn, the storm calmed and the villagers were safe. An old woman held his hand and whispered, may the gods bless you, my son. You have the heart of a true king. Terry smiled, his face covered in rain and tears. It is not the crown that makes a man great, but what he does for others. From that day, his name was sung in every market and every home. Terry the humble, Terry the brave, Terry the king who served the people. Many peaceful years passed under King Terry's rule. His kingdom of Oru became a place where strangers felt safe and travelers rested without fear. Children ran in school, farmers grew abundant crops, and elders smiled when they spoke his name. But time, as always, moved on. The young king grew old. One cool evening, he sat beneath the great Iroko tree in the palace garden, the same spot where he used to play as a child. His son, Prince Efe, came to sit beside him. Father, the boy said quietly, people say you are the greatest king Oru ever had. Tell me, how did you become so wise? I was not born wise, my son. I was once stubborn and proud. I thought a crown made me better than others, but I learned that a crown means nothing if your heart is full of pride. Power first, gold first, but kindness never dies. Prince Efe nodded slowly, trying to remember every word. That night, King Terry fell asleep and never woke up again. The kingdom wept for 7 days. Drums were silent, bells rang softly through the villages. People came from near and far to say goodbye to the king who once learned to listen. They buried him beside the old bridge in Mba village. On his tomb, the people wrote, here rests Terry the wise, the king who learned to serve before he ruled. And whenever the young children crossed the bridge, their parents would tell them, once there was a stubborn prince who became the greatest king, not because he was rich, but because he was humble.